All right. I want to welcome all of you to the PolarConnect event. Today we're here with several people that are down in Antarctica. Today is November 2nd, 2017. If you're on this side of the hemisphere, it's already another day ahead over there where Jenna and the research team are. Today's topic is seasonal changes in the sea ice on the Ross Sea. Our teacher is Jennifer Bault, and she's with researchers Dr. Hongjie and, sorry guys, Yongli and Dr. Stephen Ackley. So we will get started with the presentation. I'll turn it over to Jennifer in a little bit. There's a few things you need to know. Judy and myself, Janet, we are working remotely with the Arctic Research Consortium of the United States, and we're hosting this webinar. The platform we're using is Adobe Connect, and as you can see on your screen, hopefully the slide changed for you. You can see a list of participants. You should see the happy faces of our team down there in Antarctica, and you have a public chat area where you can type in your questions. We will not be doing webcams of all of you, as much as I'm sure Jennifer would love to see all your happy faces. It's just going to be a one-way webcam with the research team. We will be showing a short video clip sometime in the middle of this presentation, and things may change a little bit, but I'll let you know how that all works. This event is being archived, so if you have to leave, that's not a problem. Post the link on the website in a couple of days, and you'll be free to access it at any time and as you want. So right now we're trying to figure out who is in the virtual room with us, so please introduce yourself in the chat area and let us know how many students are with you and where you're joining us from around the world. So what is PolarTREC? Well, Jennifer's down in Antarctica as part of a National Science Foundation funded program. The program is hosted by ARCIS out of Fairbanks, Alaska. And we are really excited that for over 10 years we've been sending teachers like Jennifer down to both Antarctica and also to Arctic locations around the polar regions. And this is an opportunity for them to work with scientists and then bring it back into their classroom, which is what we're going to hear Jennifer talk about today. If you have questions as we go along, there's a couple ways you can participate and post your questions. The easiest one is just to type your question in the chat area, and we will interject and relay those questions to the team as we can. And of course, at the end of the presentation, we'll have an opportunity for more questions, and you can also ask them live. I think that is it. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer and have her introduce herself and the team. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome from McMurdo Station in Antarctica. With me today, I have our two researchers, Hongjie.
Hey, hello. Hi from the McMurdo.
And Yongli.
Oh, good morning.
The weather outside today is actually quite beautiful. It's very early for us here, 3:30 in the morning. So it's not dark outside because we have 24 hours of sunlight, so it's actually bright and sunny, probably as sunny as it is back in Wisconsin. So here's a picture of our team along with Pat Langhorne from New Zealand. She is also part of our team. The New Zealanders are actually over at their own base, which is about 1.5 miles away. And so we actually go out with them into the field just about every day. We started that on Wednesday, and we will again be going out this afternoon. So this is where we are, the little red circle here. You're going to see that here. It is, of course, the southernmost continent of the world, fifth largest continent, about 1.5 times the size of the United States. Pretty much all covered in ice. In fact, 90% of all of Earth's ice is found here, And it is also considered to be the windiest continent, and we definitely experienced that. We went hiking one night, and the higher we got, the windier it got. I thought we were going to blow off our little mountain that we were on. There's anywhere from about 1,000 to 5,000 people that actually inhabit Antarctica at any given point, usually involved in work or study on various aspects of polar fields. So this is Ross Island. This is actually where we are. This is a picture here of Mount Erebus. You can see the arrow to Mount Erebus. And we are down here at McMurdo Station. And so when we actually go out onto the ice, we're actually going to be in this area here. So right in front of the volcano. And there is a look at McMurdo Station where we currently are. Right now, we are actually in this building over here in the library. And this is our dorm facility back in here, and this is where we tend to eat most of our meals unless we're out in the field. So how did we get here? Well, of course, we had to take a very long flight down to Christchurch, New Zealand, and once we got there, we spent a couple of days getting all of our gear issued to us and preparing for that flight. And on the 25th, we boarded a C-17 cargo plane, which looks like that. And we left on a 5-hour flight and made it to the Phoenix airfield down at McMurdo. This here is a picture from the wing of the airplane looking out. Obviously, there's not a lot to look at except a whole lot of white. And when we got on the ground, this lovely bus-like thing was there to meet us and took us into McMurdo, which was about 45 minutes or so of a travel time from the airfield. So what is life like here in McMurdo? Well, it's been kind of fun. So I know many of my students had asked questions about the kinds of foods that we eat, which really is pretty much standard fare. Anything that you would tend to find in a normal cafeteria, we have access here to. For breakfast, you can have waffles, you can have pancakes, you can have cereal, you can have whatever they have at the grill or anything else. And lunch and dinner, similar, except obviously with those meals. So I've made a lot of new friends. A lot of artists and writers are here. There's some very famous scientists here. Art DeVries is one of those famous scientists. For those of you who don't know who that is, he is one of the discoverers of the ice fish protein, so it was really cool to meet him. So been having lots of fun meeting all the different scientists down here and finding out about their work. We've been doing a lot of hiking, and we'll probably continue to do some more hiking. I think we've got about a 9-mile hike planned for Sunday. Looking forward to that. That'll take us a little bit closer to the volcano. Lots of things to see here. We went to Discovery Hut on Halloween Day, and that was really neat to see. It's basically preserved in history from 1902 forward, pretty much as they left it. And you can see some of those photographs. I put them on my blog last night, so feel free to take a look at that if you have time. Otherwise, a lot of science. I'm in the lab a lot. I think most nights. Oh, yeah. A lot of snowmobiling. But snowmobiling, I think, just about, 3 or 4 days now. And yesterday was actually a very long snowmobile journey. I think we were on the snowmobiles for almost maybe an hour. Pretty close. So it's kind of fun to do that. A little windy, but not too bad. No worse than Wisconsin. And of course, I know many of you are anxious to see what types of animal life we have here down in Antarctica. I have not yet seen penguins. I'm hoping that perhaps Saturday I will get to see penguins. We're going to be heading out to a prominence where I think they may be at. These photographs were taken in about the same spot that we're going to be heading. So these photographs were actually taken by one of the writers that is here. He went out on a journey and got these fabulous photographs of the emperors. But I have seen plenty of seals. In fact, yesterday we actually had to drive around a seal on our snowmobile journey. And that's a little bit unnerving because when you see a seal, of course, you also understand that they had to come up through the ice. And so there had to have been a hole or a crack someplace. And since you're on snowmobiles, you don't necessarily know where that crack is, which can be a little disconcerting when you're out there. We sit on about, I think it's 2.2 meters of ice, give or take, I think is what we've been measuring. So When we're out on the ice, if it gets thinner than that, well, bye-bye us, I guess. But so far, we've been very safe. The diving that goes on here, there's divers every day that are going out, and they're bringing back various specimens, sometimes plankton. They're free to take plankton, I guess. Some of the other critters, I think they have to have some sort of a permit for. But these here in this particular touch tank were brought up by divers within the last week. So the water here, it is a touch tank, so you can put your hands in. It is exceedingly cold. I think the master diver here yesterday said the water was about -1.5. So pretty cold. I don't know that I'd want to be putting my face in that water. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to my two colleagues here, who will take over from here.
Yeah. Before you get to the ice sheet, Jen, there's a couple questions about the station that came up, so we might as well ask those now.
Okay. All right.
So one of them was, yes, one of them was how many people are in the station?
So currently, I believe there's about 900 people, they had said, that are going to be here at station anytime between now and through to the end of November. So quite a few people. There's people that come in every day, and there's people that seemingly leave every day headed to South Pole. So there's a kind of a transient population at this point. You just never know. You meet somebody, and then they're like, oh, I'm headed to South Pole tomorrow, and then you don't see them again. So it's kind of an odd thing that goes on here. But there are, of course, some very familiar faces, and George Hadaminas, one of the other PolarTREC teachers, just arrived on Wednesday. I haven't seen him yet, but I know that he's down here.
And to kind of get back to how did you get there, can you describe your routing to get to Antarctica?
Sure. So when I left Milwaukee, I went from Milwaukee to Chicago on a small layover, and then from Chicago, I headed out to LA. From LA, I went down to New Zealand, and we arrived in Auckland, New Zealand, and that was a very long flight overnight, about 12 hours, I think, about a 12-hour flight. And then from there, we went to Christchurch with another couple of hours. And then in Christchurch, we were laid over there for 2 days, but that was while we had to pick up our gear. We also had to make sure that everything was all ready to go in terms of our training. And then we boarded the plane there on Wednesday the 25th, and that was a 5-hour flight. And I do have pictures of that up on, I think, one of the very first blogs that I did, probably on the 25th. Pictures of inside of the cargo plane that I came in, and what it was like to ride in that plane. Everyone kept telling me it was going to be very loud and bumpy, and it was very loud. You had to wear protective gear for your ears. However, it really wasn't terribly bumpy, considering we were in jump seats. It wasn't terribly uncomfortable for the 5 hours. Not what I was expecting anyway.
Okay, well, I think we'll go ahead and move forward with the presentation, and we'll give you more questions as they come in.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, so what is an ice sheet? Actually, the ice sheet is a mass of ice that covers more than 20,000 square meters of land. There are two major ice sheets. One is Antarctica, one is Greenland. 99% of the freshwater ice is contained in these two ice sheets. Formed when the snow does not fully melt, it builds up over time and then turns into ice. So what is ice shelf? Ice shelf actually is a floating ice come from the ice sheet and is floating down to the coastline onto the ocean surface. So generally is from 20 meters to 1,000 meters above the ocean. So there are lots of type of sea ice. If the ice is on the sea ice, then we call it sea ice. So even sea ice, there are different type. So if it's completely on the floating on the ocean, we call the pack ice. If it is attached to the land or to the ice shelf, we call the fast ice. Otherwise, there's an opening between the land and the ice we call the perineum, which is the open area in the between the land and the ice or the ice shelf under the ice.
And we have a picture of that.
Yeah, perineum is actually really important for the ice production. That's right. Yeah. So that's what we actually study, how much ice actually production based from the perineum. We just see this is the perineum opening here in the North Sea. And here in this map, you can see the McMurdo here in the very lower right. And the ice shelf, which is the North ice shelf, which is here in the south, then we can see lots of red points, which is the field location that we are going to do some measurement and take ice cores. Then we have we are working on the fast ice, which you see is between the ocean and the land and the fast ice. Then we have the pack ice, which is inside the ocean on top of the seawater. We also have, yeah, that's all of the, yeah, we also, okay. So what are we doing in Antarctica? Then here the first part is measuring the sea ice thickness, which we can use different method. Okay, so then we also doing based on this measurement, we can do the ground truth to validate airborne measurement, satellite measurement. So we actually have an ice pod flight, which is doing the ice thickness measurement from the airborne. Then we can also fly satellite to measure the thickness from satellite. Down here. Field important measurement is very important to kind of ground truth. And besides that, we actually also doing the ice core, which we do a lot of ice top measurement. So this is the field side. We are standing on the sea ice. This is the fast ice, about 2 meters in thickness.
So yeah, this is a picture of our first field site that we did on Wednesday. And yeah, the ice that we are seeing right here is about 2.2 meters thick. And this is a look at one of the participants from New Zealand who is getting all of her gear up and ready. And this, see if I can point to this a little bit better. My arrow disappeared. Not sure where it went. Oh, there it is. All right. So there is Mount Erebus in the background. On that particular day, there was a little bit of venting that came from it, but not tremendously. But there was a couple of points you looked over, and you could definitely see some venting coming out of the top, which was kind of cool. We went out almost to the exact same location yesterday, and you couldn't even see the mountain at all in the background, which I thought was kind of interesting. You just never know down here with weather and what you're going to see or what you're not going to see. And so at some point, I would like to take the computer over to the window and show you what it looks like outside of the Prairie Lab, looking out towards the sea.
Okay, so the sea ice, actually, we measure different type of thickness. So you can see the line, the horizontal line, which is the sea level. Then the ice, the sea ice, is about on the water. Then there's snow on top of the sea ice. So we can measure the slope depth, then also measure different type of freeboard, which is the total freeboard from the surface of the snow to the sea surface, or the surface of the ice to the sea surface. We call the ice freeboard. Then, of course, the important thing is the ice thickness, which is the most important.
And so this is what we've been measuring. That's about 2.2.
Yeah, about 2.2 meters, which is the sea ice, and then the snow is about
20 centimeters.
20 centimeter snow here.
Yeah.
So the slope, the total freeboard, which is I think is 15 centimeter for the ice freeboard plus 20 centimeter the snow, which is 35 centimeter total freeboard.
Yep. So this is drilling for our ice course. This is where our video is actually going to be. Just a couple of pieces of equipment. This is actually the core here, and the drill sitting on top of it is really nothing more than a standard industrial drill that you might have, a little bit fancier than perhaps you might have at home, but similar, just a little bit larger. And of course, we do need a generator out in the field, so we do have to bring this along. But this has to be sitting in a tray, and you see that tray underneath to make sure that if there's any leakage of any particular types of fluid from this, whether it's gasoline or oil or anything else, it actually does not go down into the snow or ice. So it's all caught there. You have to be very careful out in the field. So I guess I'll turn it over to the ARCA staff, and they will play the video for you for about the next minute.
Yeah, actually, thank you. I'm going to, before we play the video, I want to ask you a couple of questions since there's a couple of good ones that came up. Can you describe how you've noticed changes in ice depths over time? And you can say you want to talk about that in the future. And you have a question from your reporter in Wisconsin there. So far, how much cooler is this adventure than you dreamed?
This adventure has been so amazing. I can't even begin to describe how amazing it is with learning so much about being out in the field and learning about the measuring of the actual ice cores themselves and the freeboard. It's really been fabulous. And then, of course, on top of it, meeting all of these other scientists. We've had talks every Sunday night and Wednesday night since we've been here. There's somebody that talks science about particularly what their research is, and so that's been really, really awesome. The one night we had a talk on seals from a young lady, I want to say California, was it UC Berkeley maybe? State. Or California State. And then on Wednesday this week there was another gentleman who has won an Academy Award and I think also a Grammy for his music, all about his diving experience. And so he had some underwater diving videos that he showed us and played his music all simultaneously. So really it's just been an amazing, amazing experience so far. And it's not done, so very cool.
Excellent. Okay, with that, we're going to turn it over to your video, and I hope you can still hear me. I'm going to start playing it, and before I do, Jennifer, are you going to narrate over the video, or do you just want me to play it?
Just play it.
Okay. Tell me if you can hear it.
I can hear it.
All right. Hold on. Having a little bit of a technical delay here. There we go. All right. While I get set back up here, you can go ahead and talk, Jen, about the video we just saw.
All right. So that was basically after you drilled into the ice, you have to lift that core up and it actually becomes very heavy because a lot of the ice chips will fall in as it's drilling, and then you're trying to pull the ice core up along with all of those little ice chips, which of course become very heavy. The one guy, Wolfgang, from the New Zealand team, when he was attempting to pull it up at one point, hurt his back. It felt very bad for him, but hopefully he'll be back up and running in the next couple of days. And I want to say, Yongli, you've experienced quite a bit of pulling up the ice cores too.
Yeah. The deeper you go, the harder it gets. So fortunately, we only drilled to a little beyond 2 meters, so it's going to be extremely difficult deeper.
Yeah. So you kind of have to be buff as scientists, I guess, because you need some muscles down here. Lots of heavy lifting and lots of hard work out on the ice. And so they're all of us having a little bit of fun out in the field. Again, you see a lot of the drilling. We have different types of drills. Sometimes the drills that go in really are just there to make tiny little holes so that they can stick in various equipment to get measurements, and sometimes they're much larger. We had one auger that was 20 centimeters. I'm not sure what they were.
They just to measure the water, salinity, and directly conductivity.
Okay. So measuring conductivity and salinity and temperatures, all sorts of measurements went down into that fairly large hole. And you can see that we're actually using some sieves, basically kitchen tools that you might have at home, to actually get all of the ice crystals out as they come into the water. So you have to get those out before you can actually take measurements. And you can see us, or various people, reaching into the holes with some of these scoops, and you can see people measuring with standard meter sticks. And picture of a Haglund back here in the back. This is a New Zealand type of transport vehicle that also goes out into the field with us. Moves very slow. We're not supposed to be driving snowmobiles over 25 miles an hour. But I think we've probably
40.
exceeded that. Yeah, we're up around 40, sometimes 50 maybe. But it's pretty fun. And let's see. I'll let you guys continue on.
What is that? Oh, this is the ice core. Yeah, we actually drill into, then take the ice core out, which usually should be 1 meter. Then we want to cut in the field actually every 10 centimeter. So 1 meter is like 10 centimeter. So then usually the ice core here is like 2 meter. So each ice core we have 10 centimeter. So we need to mark the top and the bottom. So then when we get home, we can do the measurement of salinity, isotope analysis, and chemistry analysis about that.
So yeah, in the pictures you see the very long ice cores actually coming out. I don't know where my arrow went again, but yeah, big delay here. But oh, there it is. All right, so there we have these ice cores, which come out as long pieces. At least we hope they come out as long pieces. Sometimes they break and we have to go back in and fetch them. But generally they should come out about this length, and then we usually get 2 of them and then a little additional piece, which, as Hongjie said, we have to cut these in the field to 10 centimeter length in order to maintain the integrity of what is in each one of those sections. So as it melts, perhaps there isn't mixing of the various isotopes or salinity concentrations. So my job in that essentially is doing a lot of the bagging, which sounds like it would be very easy, but when you're out in the field, your manual dexterity, because you're wearing gloves, just goes down so considerably. And then, of course, sometimes you end up taking off your gloves because you have no dexterity, and then your fingers start to freeze. And that's probably one of the harder aspects of being out here, is just your hands get cold. Otherwise, I've been pretty comfortable out in the field.
All right, I'll spend a few minutes talk about how do we do with our ice cores when we collect them. So like Hongjie said, we would cut them into 10 centimeter blocks, melt them, and then measure salinity, and then take small portions of the ice core for stable isotopes like oxygen, carbon, and the deuterium isotopes, and some, say, for uranium isotopes. and also the ground truthing of ice thickness with the airborne measurements, those would also be processed, and then look at the overall big picture of the thickness in the Ross Sea area, and also compare with data collected before. And also I want to talk, since we are talking about science, just spend 1 or 2 minutes about the isotope. So this is a overall annual precipitation of deuterium, and then oxygen isotope also be similar. So these are the oxygen 18 or deuterium, which are relatively heavy isotope of like the deuterium is actually a heavier isotope of hydrogen, and they fractionate. So what you can see from the picture is the red is like 0, which is usually seawater as a standard, and then because it's lighter, and then the evaporation process would favor the lighter, relatively lighter isotope. There's a small fractionation. So so if you go from the equator area and then to higher latitude area, the isotope just gets heavier and heavier. And then you can see that for the Arctic or the Antarctic, those we would see the heaviest isotope for hydrogen, like deuterium or oxygen, in those areas. So they pretty much locked in the ice. And so the signal of them, like precipitation or seawater, would be very different in terms of stable isotopes. And here I want to show you a couple examples of what we have done so far. And then you can also see the different signals we see from these isotopes. So to the lower left, this is the Arctic sea ice that we measured that show the deuterium access, and I think somebody's operating that. So the showing the, we have some actually from winter precipitation preserved in the sea ice, and some portions we see summer precipitation also preserved in the sea ice, and obviously the majority that clustered to the lower left, those are more like a seawater signal. And then what we see to the upper right, that's the Amazon Sea area. So for that, you can see that it's a very different signal from the Arctic. So what we see mostly, almost all the samples we see are signal of the seawater. And there's only one small exception. That's this. See if I can move this here, this dot. And so that one may have a little bit signal of precipitation. And I suspect because this is the very top of one of the core, so may have some snow that mixed in, so shows like a false signal of precipitation. And so, and then this picture for Ross Sea is also, that's where we do most of the drilling. And this one is also, even though it's in the Antarctic area, this one is actually quite different from the Amazon Sea samples we saw before. And you can see the slopes of fractionation between deuterium and oxygen. They are quite different. And so the variability from 7.64 to 8.52. And so that's very different from the distribution like Amazon Sea, because the Amazon Sea is very, it's just everything fits on one straight line. But this, you can see the different slopes. And also the d-axis, if you see the linear correlation equations, also quite different from line to line. So this gives us signal of different locations that these sea ice may refreeze at different temperature, or some of them may subject to evaporation. So again, these are just some of the work that we have done so far, and hopefully we will find out more from this field trip when we drill more sites in the Ross Sea area.
All right. So I think we are ready for questions. Would it be okay if I looked out the windows and showed you what Antarctica looks like from our vantage point?
Yeah, and then we'll come back because there's some questions related to the science that was just presented, and I don't want to lose that too much. So go ahead, show us the window, and then we'll come back and answer these questions. Oh, okay. So she stopped her webcam, so she's probably walking somewhere. So sorry about that. I was thinking we would just get to see the room. In the meantime, while Jennifer's doing that, and hopefully we'll hear from her in a moment, and we can see something. You have great questions, and I know that there was also her classroom that sent in a bunch of questions. We'll try to answer some of those as we go along. Okay, there she is, coming back. Oh, nice. Tell us what you see, Jennifer. What are we looking at?
Oh, good question. So we have White Island. I don't know if you can see my finger pointing right to the left. Large mountain over there. Black Mountain. You can see it there. Hopefully it's coming. And then we have Mount Discovery. Yep. We have this range coming down this way.
That's the fast ice.
And you're seeing fast ice, yep, right out here. And of course, this is basically, I think, part of McMurdo Sound.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a beautiful vista. Any day that you want to come up and take a look, as long as the weather is clear, you can see these beautiful mountains in the background. I know the windows are a little dirty. I apologize for that, but it's a nice look anyway.
It's hard to hear you, Jennifer. It's hard to hear you.
Sorry. So, nice mountain. Pretty to look at.
That is impressive. Right. So that was the white that we saw was actually frosty.
Yep. Yep, that was the fast ice that is out there. That we're looking at, that we actually go out on and do all of our testing on. So
nice. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. Hopefully everybody got to see a little bit of that. And it looks like a beautiful day out there for sure.
Yeah. Hard to believe it's 4 o'clock here in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. So there was a question. Let's see. I wanted to get back to this question that was about from Jennifer M. And it's related to this slide. It says, can you clarify why neutrino distribution and levels are interesting or important?
I'm sorry, what is the question?
The question is, can you clarify why the neutrino distribution and levels are interesting and or important?
Oh, the deuterium or another thing I forgot to mention is the fractionation between deuterium and oxygen O18 are also quite different, because deuterium, which is it's an isotope of hydrogen, so it's the lightest isotope. It's and also it's the easiest to fractionate. So in general, the fractionation between oxygen isotope O18 and the deuterium is about 8 times. That's why you see those slopes are close to 8. So some like 7.8, 7.9, some like more than 8. And so the overall global picture of the distribution of deuterium isotope and oxygen isotope, because these are the 2 atoms that would form a water molecule. So so it would tell us the overall picture of the hydrologic cycle, and how they work, I guess, at different scales. And so the polar regions represent one end of the part of the hydrologic cycle, and also during the process. the ratios of the deuterium and hydrogen would change, and from region to region, and also they would also be affected by other processes like evaporation and also the amount of precipitation and also the sources of moisture and so on.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Another question from Donna. How is the research you're doing helping to change the way we approach climate change?
Well, this is actually a big question. We maybe can, based on our data, show the change of the polar region. Maybe we can give the political policy maker, they can make some decision, because all we can do is give the fact and talk about how this change will impact the human being or the civilization. But eventually, I think everybody needs to work hard to tell the policy maker to make some pollutions like CO2, whatever. So we really need to make lots of work, lots of laws to the government agency, not only USA, the entire global government agency. So they know the change actually will eventually impact our life. So I think it's very important, even though we look very small, but we need to work really hard.
Okay. There was a question about ice cores from John's class. What types of things are you looking for within the ice cores?
So for the ice core, we look at also the structure of the ice, see the type of ice, the variations, and also we do measurements, measure the salinity of each section of the sea ice, see if how different they are spatially, and also we cut them into small pieces that some we would analyze for radioactive isotopes like uranium, some we analyze for stable isotopes like oxygen, deuterium, and carbon isotopes. So these would tell us different stories of what happened to these sea ice. And also overall, hopefully we'll know more about like the interaction, especially in this area, like interactions between the ice shelf and also the fast ice, since they are so close and so dynamic.
Another thing we actually is measure the thickness of the ice core, because even though it looks like when we the past 2 days, the ice thickness right now is 2.2 meters. But when we change from location to location, the thickness will change from anywhere, based on our experience, is from 1.5 meters to 2.5 meters. So based on the location, this will change. Also the freeboard that the value will also change. So how this change, how we can map this change from the satellite, which is actually a challenge and one of the major tasks. We are going to use the measurement to kind of validate the airborne measurement, then to the satellite measurement. Then we can get a big picture of the ice thickness change for the North Sea, for the entire Antarctica. Actually, because Antarctica is so far away, right now we don't have a big picture about the ice thickness change, the sea ice thickness change. So even though we know the extension of the ice, sea ice in Antarctica is overall increase during the past 10, 20, 30 years, but the thickness, how they change, we don't know. So based on a few normalized, small localized study, we actually know a little bit about the thickness change, which is slightly increased. Yeah, slightly increased, like a 1 to 3 centimeter increase per year, which is very small. but the extension increased a little bit. So the overall the ice volume, the sea ice volume in the past 10, 20 years seems increased a little bit, not too much, not significant. Compared to the Arctic, as we know, the ice thickness is decreased. The extension and the ice area also decreased. The entire ice volume in the Arctic is decreased a lot. So this is a little bit different between Arctic and Antarctic sea ice.
Okay, great. Thank you for the explanation. From Sarah Porter, how is the ice melting from climate change affecting the animals?
Okay, so because if the ice not exists, then lots of animals that depend on the ice will have big impact. For example, in the Arctic, if ice keep losing, then the polar bear and the seals, all of this, they depend on the ice, will have difficulty to find food to eat, find the location to hide them from the polar bear. In the Antarctica, if sea ice not exist, then you can see there's a penguin. They depend on the ice for the food, and also seals. We see lots of lovely seals here, and then they depend on food below the ice. And then there's other actually big ecosystem. There's lots of because all of this start from the algae below the ice. Then we have some little bit shrimp kind of. Then we have fish. Then we have penguin, seals, and whales. So all of this they are depending on the sea ice to start the algae. So if this study doesn't exist or will decrease a lot, then this big animal will have trouble to find the food, to hide them, whatever.
Thank you. We have a question from Jennifer N. How are you finding the temperatures and working outside in extreme cold?
Temperatures are really not as bad as I thought they would be. Again, being a Wisconsin girl my whole life, it really is not significantly different than most of our winters, and the only huge difference is that you're in it all the time. So when we go out on to our field missions, you have to be dressed really well, lots of layers. I think I had probably maybe 6 different layers on yesterday. And then, of course, your shoe protection is really important. The USAP, the U.S. Antarctic Program, actually gives us bunny boots to wear, which are very large white boots that have a very thick platform on them, so that when you're on the ice, all of that coldness is kind of absorbed by the bottom of the boot, and it doesn't actually get to your feet. And then, again, wearing lots of good layers like silk and wool are very good. Cotton, not so good, because as you sweat, of course, the cotton just hangs onto it, and that's what really makes you cold, is keeping that water next to your skin, so you want to get rid of that. And so any way that you can wear nice clothing that absorbs a lot of that sweat and keeps it off your body generally helps to keep you a little bit warmer. In the field, I think my hands are probably the one place that gets the coldest. I don't know, would you guys agree? Yeah, it's because we're constantly working with our hands, and when you have gloves on or mittens on, your dexterity just goes down so considerably that you end up taking your gloves off a lot. And then sometimes you're actually literally touching the ice or the seawater with your bare hands, and of course that's very cold. And so that's probably the hardest part, and it's very dry here, and you're constantly also washing your hands here, which is something I wasn't really expecting. I mean, of course you wash your hands, but like you're washing them all the time here. And so with the dryness of the climate, I have very chapped hands at this point.
The biggest actually.
Excellent. So, oh, go ahead.
One of the challenge actually when we drive the motorcycle is there's always very windy and very foggy when we drive even though we are inside the helmet, but we always get foggy and then we cannot see clearly in the front. So we always need to open a little bit, then the cold air coming, then you need to cover, then we cannot see much. So that's a big challenge.
Yeah, that's one of the other huge challenges is that whenever you're wearing glasses, they just get fogged up because of course you've got so much heat coming from the rest of your body, and you put that helmet on, and all of a sudden you can't see anything, and so then you're constantly opening the windscreen on that or the visor, and yeah, it gets pretty cold as you're driving around at 40 miles an hour or 50. I mean 25, of course.
Sounds like the challenge. So we have a few moments more to ask a couple of questions that I wanted to get to. This question is from your daughter, Haley. She says, "Hi, Mom. I'm enjoying the Skype. I hope you're having fun. What has been the best thing so far?"
Oh, there's so many good things. The best thing is probably riding on the snowmobiles. I really enjoyed that a lot. Kind of forgot how much I enjoyed it. Used to do a lot of snowmobiling when I was younger. And so it's just nice to go out and really just have this vastness around you, and there's nothing else around it. I mean, not close by anyway, and so you're just out there snowmobiling, and it's really fun. I also really like meeting all the other scientists here and finding out what their work is about. There's just so many cool scientists here. It's amazing. Answer that too.
So from Wilson Elementary School, they want to know, have you seen any Arctic wolves or foxes?
Arctic wolves or foxes?
Oh, Arctic wolf. We don't have here in the Antarctica.
No.
Yeah, Antarctica actually is very safe for us, except if there's cracks, then that will be dangerous. Otherwise, we don't have animal danger. So we don't have polar bear. We don't have. But if in the water we have like one of the seal is.
Killer whale.
Yeah. Yeah, lapis seal. Yeah, lapis seal, killer whale will actually kill us. But we don't go so far to that direction. So we are in the fast ice. They don't come to this side.
One of the amazing things I think about the animals here, like with the seals that we've seen, the Weddell seals, they are not at all afraid of humans. I mean, you could probably walk right up to them. You can't, but you could, I guess, if they allowed it, and they wouldn't be bothered by you, and the penguins will walk right up to you, too. One of the pictures that you see on the animal page, you actually see this photographer down here, and he is, I mean, no more than a couple of meters from that penguin. So they're not afraid of humans at all because they have no predator here with us, so they don't recognize us as a threat of any kind.
Yeah, they usually just come to you and walk to you and try to chase you, what you are doing, how you feel, things like that. So they are very interesting. We're surprised what we are doing. We are trying to. When we drive the motorcycle slow that, then they will lift their head and turn around to see who's coming or whatever. So they are really friendly actually. They don't afraid of any of us.
Yeah, there's no, I guess. I don't know that there's an actual distance that you need to be away from the animals, just as long as
5 meters. But if they approach you, that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, you cannot approach them below 5 meters. But if they approach you, you can stay there. Later they approach you.
So, Jennifer, we have a couple of questions that Judy's going to relay from your classroom to you. But before she does that, Hunter says, "Hi, Mom. How do you hope to tie your trip to Antarctica into your teaching?" And I think that's a great question, Hunter.
Oh, well, there's so much, again, that I've been able to pick up in terms of the measurements in the ice. I'm trying to understand what Yongli is doing with all of the isotope work and the salinity measurements. I'm bringing all of that back. And then, of course, many of the other scientists here from these science talks, I've already gotten a flash drive of the videos that the guy shared with us on Wednesday night, and I've got a whole lot of information about the SEAL talk that went on here on Sunday. So I'm bringing all of that back to something that I never really anticipated that I would have the opportunity to do, is to interact with the rest of the scientists here as well and to be able to bring their work back. So I'm super excited to just bring back, I mean, this entire smorgasbord of ideas and the scientific aspects that are going on here. It's really, again, it's an amazing experience.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. From your classroom that I'm going to relay. One is throw a full pot of boiling water into the air.
Throw a pot of boiling water into the air, will it freeze?
No, actually, I don't see that. No.
If it's extremely cold, it's possible.
Yeah, here it's not so cold. Right now it's like I don't know the Fahrenheit.
I want to say yesterday it was 12.
12 Fahrenheit, like negative 10 degrees, 3 degrees. So it's not so high, so cold here. Yeah, no.
All right.
Like
Here's another one. Have you seen anything that you did not expect to see in Antarctica?
Well, again, a lot of the scientists that I just had no idea would be here, certainly. Other things that I wasn't expecting to see.
Artists.
Yeah, artists. The artists and the writers that are here, they have an entire program built around artists and writers coming to Antarctica. And so getting to know those people has been fabulous as well, but was not expecting to see artists and writers down here. There's just so many people, I guess. That's probably kind of the biggest shock, is that it takes so many people to actually support the scientific community here. I think they had showed us a graphic at some point where it was 60% of the people that actually occupy Antarctica are actually support people as opposed to scientists. And so we're talking about cooks and dishwashers, firefighters. We're talking about people who cut hair, because of course, you know, when you're here for 3, 4, 5 months, you're going to have to get your hair cut. So they have all of these various support people that are all here helping to essentially bring the science to where it needs to be.
Okay, thank you. How about, is it hard to fall asleep or stay asleep?
Is
it hard to fall asleep or stay asleep?
Oh, actually, because this here is a 24 hours like daytime. We didn't want to sleep, but we have to sleep because every day we need to get up and we go to work. So usually we just force us to sleep like between 10 to 11 o'clock. Then we can get up like 6 o'clock. Then we can get a breakfast. Then we are ready to go to the field. If we don't eat a big breakfast, then we don't function good in the field, in the cold field. So it's very easy because we are so tired in daytime. So when we close the light, cover the window, we almost like 5-10 minutes we gotta sleep very well, very deep.
I found it very difficult initially to kind of get used to it. Yeah, you wanted to stay up, and in fact, when I leave the lab here at night at 10, sometimes midnight, I go outside, and you of course expect in your mind that it's going to be dark, and you walk out and it's sunny and bright, and you're like, oh, okay. And it just completely changes your, I guess, desire to want to go to sleep at that point. So that's been a little bit tricky. But once you get into the room and you darken the window out, it's not so bad. But not sleeping as well as, of course, I would at home, but maybe that's just because I'm away.
Yeah, and also, especially after you spend 8 or 9 hours in the field and doing all the hard work, and then when you get back, I'm sure most people would fall asleep pretty quick.
All right. Well, we have to wrap up. I just want to say if you didn't get your questions answered, that please post them on the web pages so that Jennifer and the team can finish answering your questions. And there were some really good ones. Jen, there were several people that are having to head off right now, and but they wanted to say thank you, and they've enjoyed listening in. And all of us from ARCIS also say thank you. It was a really great presentation.
Thanks, everyone, for checking in. Appreciate it. I hope that you got something out of this. I love being here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right.